So if you've been on wrestling Twitter in the past 12 hours, you'll be fully aware that WWE and their president Nick Khan is reportedly in talks with New Japan Pro Wrestling over a potential working partnership. So because of this, wrestling Twitter had an absolute conniption. People are freaking out over the sheer prospect, the sheer idea of WWE having a business working relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now, right from the jump, I want to address this. Will this actually happen? Will anything come of this? Obviously, I'm not one of the executives on the board of either who's negotiating this deal, so I don't know. Does it feel like something that will end up happening? Not really, but that's just merely speculation. We don't know. So, with that said, what would happen if WWE has a partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling? Would we be seeing Ibushi, Okada, Jay White having matches with Roman Reigns every week on SmackDown and matches on pay-per-view? Well, no. That's not what it would be at all. Essentially, if they're having a working relationship, the main sort of things that for the relationship is WWE more so developing and growing a brand in Japan, so that when WWE inevitably go to sell off either their rights, their brand, their whatever, they're going to be worth more money because of the reach and the audience base they would have built up in Japan because of this partnership. That's one of the main driving factors, because Nick Khan, the guy who is, I guess, leading talks reportedly, he's the president of all this, he wants WWE, and his job is to get WWE to be worth as much money as possible. So, by reaching into New Japan or the Japanese market, that's a great way of, I guess, making your product worth more. And a partnership in that way is more better off than doing the NXT Japan thing, where you bring WWE into Japan and have the fourth string, fifth string Japanese wrestling promotion. Because in Japan, you've already got New Japan Pro Wrestling, All Japan, Big Japan's not really there, but you got Stardom, you got a bunch of these promotions like Noah, all these wrestling promotions in Japan. So having WWE straight up reach out in Japan and do the partnership, it's a better way of doing it than NXT Japan. NXT Japan would have just been a fat L, and if they do that, it's a fat L. So that's that. As far as my thoughts on this, I tweeted it out. Essentially, I tweeted, WWE working with New Japan hardly benefits WWE. New Japan working with WWE hardly benefits New Japan. So it's realistically, I don't see much benefit coming on either side. And I saw a few people, when I tweeted this out, reply saying what the benefits are and what the positives are, because my tweet about this was hardly the most positive, yeah? So I had one person, I won't say the name, but I'll go through. They listed all the supposed positives of the working relationship between WWE and New Japan Pro Wrestling. So I'm going to read each one. I'm going to break down whether it's true, whether it's false, whether it's cap, whether it's not, etc. So basically, this will be the rest of the video. Hopefully you guys are enjoying. Smash the like button if you haven't already. So WWE struggles to find a foothold in Japan. This helps. Now, once again, Japan have... Obviously, New Japan's the main wrestling promotion, but they have several other predominant wrestling promotions. WWE in Japan is hardly that big of a deal. WWE is just, it's just another promotion to Japan. So, yes, this would help as far as establishing a foothold in Japan. This would help as far as making WWE worth more, because if you can grow the audience in Japan, your product's inherently going to mean it's going to be worth more worldwide. So, that one's true. Then, New Japan struggles to find a foothold in America. This helps. Okay, you wonder why New Japan struggles to find a foothold in America. Okay. How about when they had that whole deal and the whole situation with Okada and Impact Wrestling all those years ago, and then Okada wasn't being valued enough by Impact or TNA, and then New Japan cut all ties with Impact Wrestling and just American wrestling entirely for a bunch of years. They scrapped their only deal in America to broadcast Japan. New Japan did that to themselves because they had pride in what they're worth. They took self-worth in themselves, and they just voluntarily scrapped their foothold in America. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why that's the case. As far as struggling to find the foothold as well. This is the same New Japan who go out of their way to copyright strike anyone and their mother who has a picture from a New Japan show, has any content from a New Japan show, and is trying to discuss the New Japan show out of fair use. They've struck Tyler Kuhn-Williams, myself, they've struck Fullback, and all these people. You put any New Japan content in an effort to try and talk about them and give them some notoriety and relevancy in the Western civilization and talk about them, they're going to strike you. So this one, it's an oxymoron. New Japan struggles to find a foothold in America. They do that to themselves. They really do. So that's that one. Then the next one, more talent to work for WWE and more talent for work in WWE. This one is just backwards. WWE have talent out the wazoo. WWE do not need more talent. Okay, and plus, here's the other thing. Like, WWE is about, it should be at least, about characters, entertainment, having a recognizable identity, and having something to go on in a storyline. If you have Roman Reigns in the ring, what is Okada going to walk out and say to Roman Reigns? What is Ibushi going to walk out and say to Roman Reigns? What is Shingo Takagi going to walk out on the stage and say to Roman Reigns? What is... Like, all these guys, like, there's so many of these New Japan wrestlers who are immensely talented in-ring performers and are great at the anime fighting New Japan epic style, but in WWE, they're just... How are they going to be different to a guy like a Shinsuke Nakamura? Or even, God forbid, an Akira Tozawa type, or a Kushida. They're just going to be another Japanese guy in WWE who can't really cut promos and is inherently just an in-ring guy, and that's it. So... that one is just a bit, it's just dumb. So that's that one. Then more exposure for talent in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Okay, interesting. So more exposure for talent in NJPW. Right. Okay. This one is similar to the one I just said with WWE, but yes, you can bring, hypothetically, if this partnership goes ahead and if they have talent swaps and all this kind of stuff, if it gets that level, which it won't, but let's hypothetically say it does. You have Kota Ibushi coming out on SmackDown. Okay, you're getting more exposure for Ibushi, more exposure for New Japan, exposure for the New Japan talent. Cool. But what does Ibushi say? What does Ibushi do? Reigns is cutting a promo in the middle of the ring. Ibushi's music hits. Ibushi walks out on the stage, stares at him, he points at Roman Reigns, and that's all you can really do. Because of how big the language barrier is, and it doesn't click. Like, who do you give Ibushi as the manager? Do you, like, I don't even know. Like, more exposure for talent in New Japan. Okay, so a New Japan talent's going to come onto WWE Raw and have a 12-minute great match with Angel Garza. Or we're going to have a great match between Shingo Takagi and John Morrison on Raw. Why should anyone care? Like, it's just, moves are moves. Why should we care because there's a different name doing it? I don't know. That's the state of that one. Then, WWE could help, to get New Japan Pro Wrestling onto Peacock. Why would WWE want to get New Japan onto Peacock? Wouldn't WWE want to get themselves to be worth more money and they could sell their own library for more on Peacock? Since when does WWE care about trying to get New Japan onto Peacock? WWE, they're all about business for themselves. This is the same company who fired and furloughed legitimately like 100 people in the height of fear during a global pandemic. You think WWE is going to desperately go out of their way to help New Japan get content onto Peacock? Like, if anything, it'll be WWE buying the New Japan library and the New Japan World library so that Peacock could have that, if anything. But even then, like, that's a bit of a reach. Then, finally, if they can find common ground creatively, it can work. Okay, this one goes back to the same thing as before. What can you really do as far as, like, WWE wrestlers in Japan? Okay, I mean, they did that super show in, 92, where you had Hogan wrestling the Great Muta, was it? And then you had, like, Brock Lesnar working in 07, but it really wasn't as, like, a partnership. It was just kind of Brock working over there and being disrespectful to New Japan Pro Wrestling talent. So, you've done, like, stuff in the past with Japan. I guess, find common ground creatively. So you're going to have Roman Reigns showing up to New Japan Pro Wrestling and punching Okada, I guess. Okay. You can have Roman Reigns show up after Ibushi's finished a 37-minute great match and Roman Reigns insults Kenny Omega or something. This is basically my general synopsis of this is WWE would be doing this deal pretty much exclusively to establish a bit more of a brand in Japan so that inherently the WWE label and the WWE name is worth more just generally. So that way when WWE goes to sell their rights to Peacock or sell their rights to another network, WWE is going to be worth more, particularly in Japan. That's the main reason for this. New Japan Pro Wrestling is just being used as a marketing not marketing, but just like a bit of a toy for leverage, so to speak. So that's my take on it. I'm not one of these people who's just like, oh my god, I hate WWE, I hope they don't kill Japan. I don't really care. It's just like, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? We can get Shingo Takagi showing up and having a great match with John Morrison on Raw, like, whatever. So that's going to be the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, like, comment, something on the drill. See ya.